Join me in welcoming Peter Vessenes. Hey, Peter, how you doing today?
I'm just fantastic, Steve. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So tell us, first of all, just a little bit about who you are and how you show up in the world.
Oh my goodness. I was one of these people that tried to figure out what I was going to do with my life by my time I was 30 years old. And what I found out was that I was really good at working with and fixing companies. And so I began a process of working initially actually with very, very large technology companies. And what was unusual or unique about what I did was I not only had a background in technology and communications, but I was a math whiz. So I figured out how the numbers fit into production and efficiency and money, and I got very good at making companies really, really succeed. So I did that for 10 years, got a little tired of working with big companies, so shifted to smaller companies. Then I thought this might be fun to write about. So I began to write about how do you make more money. And I became, in 2 years in the early 90s, a contributing editor to 5 major financial journals. Then people wanted me to start speaking. So I was traveling around. I had a number of clients that we were turning around. My wife and I co-authored a book that went through a major publisher called Building Your Multimillion-Dollar Practice, which was for the financial services industry. So that brought me back into working with large companies again. And then I got tired of working for other people. So I launched a software company. And what the software did was it took the transactional activity, the financial activity from small companies, stuff that was being recorded on things like uh, basically uh, QuickBooks, Zero. Uh, we used like 7, 8 different accounting software, captured all the data, brought it into this thing, and built tools that normally you would only get if you had an entire team of analysts on a multinational. And the whole thing was built around creating the future, forecasting business, reducing risk. We went global. We were in obviously North America, Brazil, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Europe. We were about to move into the Middle East, and then COVID hit. And because our target audience was small and mid-sized businesses, in 90 days we were out of business. So no good deed goes unpunished. But I've been doing this for so long, I just got really inspired to try and reach out to the challenges small businesses face in growing their businesses and making money with them, particularly now in this particular unique economic transition the world is going through. So there you go. That's the short story without explaining when dirt was young.
So we all want to have our business be a, multi-million dollar, huge concern. But first of all, is that even really something that we should be thinking, or should we be thinking differently?
Well, I think everybody wants what they're doing, especially if they're created a business or they have a small business, they really want to prosper. You want to make more money. And you find out when you are starting a business or you have a small business that you're the last paycheck that goes out. Everything else has to be paid first. And so what business owners quickly discover is that of all the things that they have assets, whether they have stocks or bonds or Bitcoins or whatever it is they might have, their largest asset is their company. And so to learn how to increase the value of your company is the smartest thing you can do. But it's pretty complicated because you're 1 or 2 or 3 people. Okay, that's one level of doing it. But the minute you add 4 people, 5 people, you're at 6 people, it gets a lot more complicated. And so what I wrote the book about was explaining not only what these different levels are, but all the different component parts that inflict themselves on you as a business. So that was the inspiration for the book. I think everybody should want to grow their business to the point where either it's grown past the point where they know how to run it and then they should sell it, or that they look for building it to a point where they can do an acquisition merger, come into another company. But mostly I want people to pursue their passion, the things they love to do. There's a difference between getting wealthy and prospering. And I'm a big advocate of prospering, because prospering means your whole life is really in a celebration. I know a lot of very wealthy people who aren't really happy. They aren't satisfied. And I'm nothing wrong with being very wealthy. Absolutely. If there's anything you can do to help other people get wealthy, I'm all up for it. But I think there's a very specific set of ways for doing it that prove to be long-term, lifelong value. And that's what the book is about.
That makes total sense. So many people out there that have money and are still miserable. So, and vice versa.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I want people not only to wake up in the morning and be very excited about go to work, but I want all the people that work for them to get up and be excited and going to work. When you have that kind of energy, the company flourishes. You put out a vibe, you put out a frequency where your clients, your customers, your trading partners, your community, everybody wants to attach themselves to you. And that's what we should be after.
So for most of us, unless our business has been around for a while, we're in kind of that little engine that could stage, chugging up the mountain saying, I think I can. And most of us don't even know where to start. What is the kind of starting point of going from, just getting by to really building, a really great life and business?
Well, obviously the company itself was built on some assumptions. You're assuming that your value proposition, your product, your service has value to your target audience. And so in the early stages, what you have to do is validate your assumption. You need to find your profile of people that you want to reach out to and touch and create a little following and create a beta program. You really, really want to take the things that you believed your company could do and prove it with some people. Those are the early stages, because the assumptions you made and proving them actually precede you making a lot of money. Now, from that point, once you've proven that your audience likes the product, likes the service, they keep coming back, you're not a one and done, you've built some type of recurring revenue flow, whether it's like automobiles where people buy new cars once every 7 years or they lease every 3, or whether it is like software as a service where there's a monthly or an annual renewal. You want to have something that has recurring revenue. Now, once you've validated you can do that, even if it's in a very small scale, then the second stage of doing this is, how do I scale it? How do I make it bigger? What ways do I reach more people? How do I create a following? How do I either join a tribe or create a tribe? And that's kind of the second stage of what's going on. Now, from there, it becomes a little more complicated. And that's part of what the book talks about, each of the stages and what are the more complicated elements. Let me give a simple example. When you run a business, all of a sudden you find there's a lot of steps in running the business. It's not just sales, right? And it's not just payroll, and it's not just bookkeeping and accounting, but there's compliance and regulatory law, there's technology, there's how do I leverage what I'm doing? What's the vision of the company? How do I create and define a culture? There's so many pieces. Small businessmen find out very quickly that by the time you hit maybe $300,000 to $500,000 in annual revenue, which is not that large, you can't pay yourself a ton of money on that. that there's probably over 1,000 steps it takes to run the company. So if you want to know why small business people don't get a lot of sleep or go on holiday, that's the reason. So the book is, oh my God, how do I survive this? And how do I get through this? And what's going on?
It's so hard to answer some of the more generic questions, but if you had to try to pick one thing, what would you say is the biggest mistake that people make that, keeps them stuck rather than growing?
They get caught in a particular jag. They believe their approach towards the marketplace is going to work, but they just have to keep doing it a little longer and doing it a little longer and doing it a little longer. Now, there's some validity that you have to do this for a while. I know when I started the software company, we were initially focused with small businesses, and we had Intuit actually call us up asking us to partner with them. We won App of the Year at Cloud Jam in 2011, which was pretty good. They marketed to 2 million of their customers on our behalf. But we found that the business owners were too busy running their businesses to really want to learn how to do forecasting and future management and fiscal management. So we found out pretty quickly that we had to shift our focus of distribution to people that would help them. Okay, so that made sense. Who are we going to have help them? Well, obviously, the thing that's most important to the business owner was the money. Who do they trust to talk to about their money? So the second discovery we made was they trusted to talk to their accountants about their money, right? Because you turn over all the things to the accountant. All right. So the third thing we discovered was that accountants like to talk about tax, how much you should legally pay and not pay, audit, are you doing it correctly or are you going to go to jail, and compliance, are we going to follow the rules or are both of us going to go to jail? So tax, audit, and compliance. So most accountants are always trying to find ways of expanding their business. So many of them were trying to move towards having chief financial officer level services, advisory services in accounting. And the American Institute of CPAs, CPA.com, they've been migrating 5-6 years trying to help accountants learn how to do this. So we actually were invited to be part of their executive roundtable because they liked what we were doing. So I went to some of these events and so on. And what we found was trying to teach accountants on how to be financial advisors for businesses was no small challenge. Even with the AICPA and the Chartered Accountants of England and Wales was another partner, the two largest accounting organizations globally. It literally took us years in each of the countries we were in to try and teach accountants how to use our tools to help their clients become wealthy. All right. So I'm not saying it doesn't take a certain amount of time, but your underlying assumptions, when you find out they don't work, you have to move pretty quickly towards other alternatives. And that's the thing I've seen most with startups and smaller companies is they get caught in a jag and they have trouble thinking outside the box. Can I use Facebook? Can I use Twitter? Can I use Instagram? Are there things I can do to broaden, my following? And I think that's for a lot of companies that have been in business for a while, that are kind of stuck in a rut. They're busy being busy, that this is the largest challenge they have.
Oh, and that's a good one too. Just busy being busy, and the whole week goes by, but you didn't really do anything.
You paid the bills.
Yeah. So the book is called Bumper to Bumper, Building Your $1 Million Business. Multi-million-dollar business, yes. And let me put the link in here so that people that are listening live or watch it on the replay can get a copy of the book. Tell us of all of the things. It's kind of like asking you which is your favorite grandkid, but what is your favorite part in the book?
Well, I think some of it is the books. I try to make books fun to read. If you enjoy listening to me tell stories, you'll like the book because the book is full of a lot of practical life stories that I've lived through, things that actually happened. But there's a couple of sections that I like a lot. I love the one about a prosperity secret. What is the secret to prosperity? Because that's involved with understanding how trade is really supposed to work. People do business with you because they trust you. And they trust you because they believe that what they're giving up in the trade is equal to or less than what they're getting in return. So you have to trade from a standpoint of saying, what I'm offering is equal to or greater than what I'm receiving. And therefore, people trust you. Now, just getting people to trust you isn't the thing. We've got, words for people that are have been trusted. Grifters, con men, there are people that are pretty good at persuading you of such things. But I like the opening chapter a lot because it is a secret to prospering. If you understand all your trading partners, that it's not just your customers, it's your employees, it's your suppliers, it's your distribution channels, it's your community. Then you learn how to do that, and it's very, very rewarding. People love you because they love trading with you. I like that one. The other one is there's a chapter when I do about it's kind of like the people side of the company, and people are their largest asset. You spend more money on your people than on anything, and one rotten apple in there is like a cancer. It can kill everything, kill efficiency, and so on. So I like talking about how do you have a culture that you define actually get created in your company. See, a lot of business owners think they can create their culture. No, they can define the culture. They can destroy it by how they behave, but only their management team can create the culture. And the reason is that when everyone walks by you, the boss, it's yes, ma'am, Sunday best. How you doing? Right? There's you get a jaded perception of what's going on. So I really like that chapter. There's another section where I talk about the different stages of growing the company. And for those of you who are not focused on sports, please forgive me. I used to do this with family sizes, but I found out that wasn't always appreciated. But essentially, when you start the business, it's like you're a golf professional. You've got yourself, you have your caddy, and you maybe have a coach. You maybe have a strength coach. It's just you. But the money only comes because you're doing the effort. That's a startup, right? I'm creating what we need to have happen, and I'm the one selling what's going on. And then eventually, as it does a little better, you start adding some more people. And now when you get to 5, 6, 7 people, you're not playing golf anymore, right? You've migrated into playing basketball. You've got the star, you got the co-star, but everybody wears a lot of hats. Everything's moving around, just trying to get it done. You're trying to get all this to happen. And it's a whole different way that a company runs. It's very free form. A lot of people wear a lot of different hats. But then when you hit 12 or 14 people, the game changes. If you ever tried playing pickup with 7 or 8 people on a team, it just doesn't work, right? So I believe it migrates more into playing soccer or playing football, where there are very, very defined roles. There are very, very specific things that individuals have to do. It isn't that there isn't crossover, but you have coaches and you have strength coaches and you have strategies, and it's a lot more complicated. And the migration from each of these levels of the company is significant. The reason a lot of businesses don't make it past 2 million or 5 million or 20 million is because they hit a block in learning how to perform at these more complicated and sophisticated levels. So I talk about how you do that. Anyhow, those are my 3 favorites.
Such a great book, and everybody needs to get it. You can get it for free today on Amazon.
I know, and I'm excited for you. Steve made sure that I would give it away for a while, so here we go.
All right. Bumper to Bumper, Building Your Multi-Million-Dollar Business by Peter Vessenes. Peter, thanks so much for spending some time with us on the show here today.
Steve, it was a delight. Thanks so much for bringing me on.